Welcome to another episode of Earth Grief Doula. This is Susan Meeker-Lowry. Today's episode was inspired by something that I read by Margaret Wheatley. She's a writer and has been around for a very long time and has focused and written on all kinds of different subjects, including economics. Today, the quote has to do with hope, which she feels is almost counterproductive when it comes to the challenges that we face with climate change and capitalism and the ways that we are currently destroying Earth. She writes, "The antidote to despair is not hope. It is love. Love for the beauty and harmony of life, even as we despair for the destruction caused by us humans. We give up control or saving the earth and join the family of all beings as willing, humble participants. Opened by awe and gratitude, we feel held, supported, and loved in return. We belong here." To me, this speaks to pretty much everything I've been working on for most of my life. I have had arguments with some of my closest friends when I talk about, I don't have hope. I have a knowing that it is possible that we can turn things around, but I don't necessarily have hope. I feel that hope is almost something that keeps us stuck in a place of inaction, and we must move through that. What I realized when I read Wheatley's statement this morning is that in order to get to that point of moving through the despair and also letting go of hope, whatever that means, in order to do that, we really need to face and move through our grief. Our personal griefs, yes, and more importantly, to a certain extent, for the topic of this episode, our grief at the loss of places and living beings, and really our grief at the loss of the future that we have envisioned or planned for in our own lives. We know that the future that we may have imagined for ourselves when we were younger, or maybe when we got married or started having children or started on a path of activism or whatever our passion is in the world. We may have had a vision of what our future would be like, even though we may not have been able to see it exactly. We need to let go of those visions because those visions are probably not going to come to pass. And there's a certain amount of grief involved in that letting go. I want to share a little bit of what I went through, my experience of grief after my oldest son, Jason, died of an opioid overdose in 2013. He was 36. He left behind, obviously, his mom, me, his two younger brothers, and his two young sons. I remember the pain of that grief literally felt like it was going to tear me apart. I felt like my arms and legs and my whole body was just being literally physically ripped apart. And it hurt so much. And there was a part of me in the beginning when I just wanted to pretend that he hadn't died. He didn't live with me at the time. He was in Vermont and I was in Maine. So it's not like he was physically present in my daily life, although we did keep in touch on the phone and we did see each other when we could. But he wasn't physically present in my daily life. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just pretend he's still alive. Of course, that doesn't work. But it was a temptation. It was almost a form of insanity because I didn't want to feel the pain that I felt. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to avoid it. I wanted to pretend that it never happened. And I believe that this is the place that many of us are right now when it comes to how we're feeling about what's happening with Earth and our role in it, which is part of the problem, but also so minuscule because the situation is way bigger than any one of us or any of our families or even our groups, our communities. It's a collective issue on a global scale. And it's an issue of spirit and a knowing of our oneness and a denial of that. When we connect with that oneness, we can't help but feel that grief. We can't help but feel that pain. And it's natural to want to push it over to one side and lock it away or pretend it's not even real and go about our daily lives as if everything is fine. But if we want to really help Gaia, if we really want there to be a future of some sort on a living planet for our children and our grandchildren and our grandchildren's children, we can't deny it. We must work through it. And it hurts like hell. And I can tell you this, with the death of my son, it took years. It was a circuitous path. It was one step forward and 3 steps back. It was waking up in the morning and feeling, I feel okay today. And then in an hour, being a blubbering idiot full of tears and just wanting to curl up in a ball. It was driving somewhere in the car on a beautiful day and looking out at the blue sky and thinking, oh, Jason would just love being here today. That sky is so gorgeous. And the tears come while I'm driving. And I hear his voice in my head saying, you have to see it for me, Mom. And so that gave me that responsibility to be here for him, to carry him in my heart and in my soul and in my spirit with me, so that he can experience and so that his presence can be felt. And so we need to move through the grief. We must allow it and accept and trust the process. When we do, it's not like we'll be over it. What happens is it becomes a part of who we are. It is a part of who we are, just like if we're a mom, that's always a part of who we are. We're a son or a daughter, that's always a part of who we are. We're friends. We're a human being on the planet. That's always a part of who we are. So this grief that we experience, that I experienced when I lost my son, and this grief that we are all experiencing, looking out and losing treasured, loved places, species, whether they're extinct or whether they're extirpated from where we are currently, that grief is becoming a part of us. And it is essential that we acknowledge it. And when it does, it somehow renders us stronger. It cracks our heart open in a way that is really, really important for us to have empathy and compassion, and for us to feel the love primary, not so much anger, not so much frustration, not so much despair. Once we move through that and we carry it with us and it becomes a part of our perspective, we are looking out at the world with eyes full of love and compassion and a knowing that it matters what we think and feel and do. And there's something about having grief incorporated into our very being that helps turn things around so that we have the strength to act. We realize all of a sudden, or gradually, that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter what they say to us. It doesn't matter if they want to hurt us, because we have already experienced and moved through and come out the other side of the worst pain anybody can ever feel. And so nothing can knock us down after that. That is the strength that I have seen in the eyes of Indigenous women, especially as they fight to stop pipelines, as they hold strong lines protecting their villages and their families and their people against the corporate behemoths that come to destroy and take their resources and push them away and kill them and ruin their future. I have seen that strength, that passion, that what I call raging love that is so essential. And I feel that women right now are right on the cusp of taking on a huge amount of power. And we are passionate, and we are connected to Earth, and we are waking up to acknowledge that and take on that role. Moving through the grief that we feel over all of the losses, whether they're on that personal level that I mentioned, or whether they're on that level of Earth, moving through that grief every single moment of every single day is a process that is essential if we are going to have a chance at transforming where we are right now into a reality that is regenerative and that can support future generations of life, not only humans, because we aren't the most important species here. We may be the most destructive right now, but we are not essential to the running of Gaia. And yet, we have the potential to not only transform our own culture and societies and ways of living within Earth, we have the potential to become the species that is participatory and reflective of the other beings with whom we share the planet. We are one of. We are unique, and every other species is also unique. And we are a part of it all. And we can reach each other, and we can express this, and we can hold each other in love. And that is where the change comes from. Love and awe and appreciation and gratitude for all of it, and for the beauty that does exist everywhere, if only we know to look.